Have you ever had a moment where your child looked you straight in the eye and said something, and you just knew something wasn't right? You couldn't explain it, but your gut whispered, "This isn't the whole truth." If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. As we get older, we like to think we've seen it all, that we're seasoned enough to tell when someone's being honest. And yet, when it's our own children, our guard drops. We want to believe the best in them. We want to give them the benefit of the doubt. And sometimes, without even realizing it, we overlook the very signs that should make us pause. It's not about being paranoid or mistrustful. It's about recognizing when something's off, not because we want to accuse or confront, but because we care. Because trust is the foundation of any relationship, especially the one we have with our children. And when that trust feels shaky, it hurts deeper than most people understand. At our age, we've carried a lot, for our families, our friends, and most of all, for our children. So when something feels off, it's not just about one moment. It's about protecting the love and connection we've spent a lifetime building. That's why today, we're going to talk about something that's rarely easy, but always important. How to spot the signs your kids might not be telling you the truth, and how you can stay calm, clear, and strong through it all. Now, I'm not here to make you suspicious of every word they say. This isn't about turning every conversation into an interrogation. This is about awareness, about quietly recognizing when something doesn't add up, and knowing how to respond with dignity, not drama. Let's start with something subtle, something so many of us have witnessed but brushed aside, when they change the subject too quickly. Picture this. You ask your son how work is going, or your daughter about that odd charge on the credit card, and suddenly they're talking about the weather, or that funny thing they saw online. It seems harmless, maybe even charming, but deep down, you know they didn't answer your question. It's like they slipped away from the conversation without even touching it. When this happens repeatedly, it's worth paying attention. Changing the subject isn't always about forgetfulness, it's often about avoidance. Real strength means staying present, facing uncomfortable truths instead of running from them. So when someone close to you steers away from reality, you don't need to chase them. You just need to stay grounded, calm, steady. You can circle back with patience and say, "I noticed you didn't really answer me earlier. Is there something I should know?" That simple question, asked with quiet strength, can open doors they thought were safely closed. Another sign that often slips under the radar is overdefensiveness. You ask something simple, maybe about a late payment or why they haven't called in a while, and suddenly they act like you've launched an attack. Their voice rises, their tone sharpens. They go from calm to combative in an instant. You're left wondering, what did I say wrong? But here's the truth. When someone reacts too strongly to a simple question, it usually says more about them than about you. The key is not to take these reactions personally. Instead, see them as clues, emotional fingerprints left behind by a deeper truth. People who are lying often feel cornered by their own words, and defensiveness becomes their shield. It's not your job to tear that shield down, but it is your right to notice it, to calmly stay in the moment, and to ask yourself, what are they trying so hard to protect? There was a time when I asked a friend, someone close to me, why they hadn't followed through on a promise. I didn't accuse. I just asked. And yet they flared up, going on and on about how I didn't trust them, how I was being unfair. At first, I felt bad. But later, I realized their reaction wasn't about my question. It was about their guilt. And once I understood that, I knew to stop blaming myself for simply wanting honesty. Now, sometimes the opposite happens. Instead of getting defensive, they start telling you a story that's just a little too smooth. Every word fits perfectly. The timing is flawless. The story wraps up so neatly, it feels rehearsed. And that's because it probably is. Real life is messy. People pause. They forget things. They stumble through details. So when someone gives you a picture-perfect explanation, it's okay to raise an eyebrow. Not rudely, but thoughtfully. You don't need to accuse them of lying, but you can ask gently, "That sounds like quite a story. Can you tell me a bit more about what happened?" A liar often stumbles on the second telling, not because you caught them, but because the truth can't live in the shadows forever. Real strength lies in seeking clarity, not control. You don't have to force anyone to be honest. But you can create an environment where the truth has no reason to hide. That begins with staying calm, with noticing the inconsistencies, and with having the quiet courage to ask questions without fear of conflict. Sometimes, when the people we love aren't being honest with us, it's not because they don't love us back. It's because they're afraid of being judged, of disappointing us, of having to admit something they're ashamed of. Your calm presence, your willingness to listen without reacting, may be the very thing that helps them open up. And here's something else to keep in mind. Not all lies are spoken. Some are hidden in silence, in distractions, in too perfect answers. Character reveals itself in patterns. If your child consistently avoids tough conversations, consistently gets defensive, or consistently spins stories that don't quite feel real, that's a pattern. One worth paying attention to. You're not being too sensitive. You're being aware. And awareness is one of the most powerful tools you have at this stage in life. You've earned it. You've lived through enough to know when something feels off. Trust that instinct, but temper it with calm, with wisdom, and most importantly, with compassion. Let's continue this conversation, because there are more signs worth exploring. Ones that show up in the body, in the tone, even in the smallest details they hope you won't notice. And one of those signs is written all over the body, literally. Have you ever noticed someone talking to you, but their body seems like it wants to be somewhere else? Maybe they're facing the door, or their arms are crossed tightly, or their feet are angled away like they're ready to make a quick escape. You're looking at them, but you can feel that they're not fully with you. I remember a time when my son, let's call him Brian, came over for dinner. We sat at the table like we always did, shared a meal, talked about the usual things. But something was different. His body was turned ever so slightly away. Not dramatically. Not enough to make a scene. But just enough to make me feel like something was being held back. And as the conversation got more personal, about his job, about money, that slight turn became more obvious. He wasn't looking to connect. He was trying to avoid being seen. Not just physically, but emotionally. Some say the body often reveals what the mind is trying to hide. You can't always control what happens, but you can control how you respond. And that includes responding to subtle signs like this. Not with anger, not with accusations, but with quiet curiosity. When someone you love can't quite face you, ask yourself, what truth are they turning away from? It's easy to ignore these signals. We tell ourselves we're overthinking it, that maybe they're just tired, distracted, or uncomfortable in their seat. But when it happens again and again, when their body keeps turning away while their words stay smooth, it's time to look closer. They may not be lying outright, but they're withholding something. And you deserve honesty, not distance. Another sign that often catches us off guard is humor. Specifically, when someone laughs off a serious conversation. You bring up something important. Maybe you ask, "Is everything okay financially?" Or, "Are you really happy in that marriage?" And instead of an answer, you get a chuckle, a joke, a quick, "Oh, you worry too much." At first it might seem harmless, maybe even endearing. But when laughter becomes a habit in the middle of honest conversations, it's not just about lightening the mood. It's about dodging the truth. I had a friend, Susan, whose daughter always responded this way. Every time she tried to bring up something meaningful, her daughter would smile, wave it off, and laugh like it was no big deal. But Susan knew better. She felt the weight under that laughter, and eventually it all came out. The stress, the mistakes, the fear of disappointing her mom. The laughter was a mask, a way to stay safe. When people laugh at what should be taken seriously, they're not mocking you, they're protecting themselves. They use humor to shift the focus, to avoid the vulnerability that truth requires. So don't take the bait. Stay calm. Stay open. Ask again. With warmth. You laughed just now, but I want to know the real answer. It matters to me. That one sentence can be powerful. Not because it forces a confession, but because it shows you're present. That you care enough to sit with discomfort and wait for something real. You see, the older we get, the more we understand that real connection doesn't come from surface talk. It comes from truth. From being willing to sit through awkward silences and look someone in the eye when the conversation gets tough. That's where love deepens. That's where understanding grows. And yet, not every lie is bold or loud. Sometimes it's in the vagueness, the fog. You ask for details. Where did the money go? Or, who exactly were you with that night? And the answers feel like smoke slipping through your fingers. It's complicated. It wasn't a big deal. Just a thing with some people I know. That's not an answer. That's an evasion. I remember once asking my grandson Ethan about a school issue. He said, "We're just figuring some stuff out." I asked again. "It's being handled." And the more I asked, the more he danced around the truth. Eventually, I found out he was struggling more than he admitted. Grades slipping, friendships falling apart, but he was scared to say so. Scared to disappoint me. So he stayed vague, kept me out of the loop. And I let it happen because I didn't want to push too hard. Clarity is an act of courage. When people speak vaguely, they may not be trying to deceive you out of malice, but they are avoiding accountability. And if we always let them, we help the lie grow. Not on purpose, but by not pressing, we give the silence permission to stay. So what can we do? We don't interrogate. We don't accuse, but we do ask. Calmly. Directly. That sounds a little vague. Can you help me understand better? This kind of question doesn't threaten. It invites. It says, "I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to understand you." That's a powerful gift to offer someone, especially when they're struggling to be honest. By now, you've probably realized something. Most lies from our children aren't about trying to hurt us. They're about fear. Fear of judgment. Fear of letting us down. Fear of opening wounds they don't know how to heal. And this is where inner strength becomes not just a mindset, but a lifeline. It helps us stay anchored when emotions rise. To listen more deeply. To ask with calm, not with chaos. Because when you create a space where truth is safe, truth eventually shows up. We don't have to get everything right. We don't have to spot every lie or decode every sign. But we can commit to staying present, to noticing, to gently pulling back the curtain, not to catch someone in the act, but to help them feel seen, understood, and maybe even forgiven. And sometimes you don't even need to hear the words or watch the body language. You just need to pay attention to how they make you feel. There's a certain kind of silence, a certain pause before they answer, that makes something stir in your chest. It's like your heart knows what your ears haven't confirmed yet. You may not have proof, but deep down, you sense something isn't right. Now, that instinct, don't ignore it. That quiet little voice that whispers when things feel off, that's experience talking. That's wisdom shaped by decades of parenting, of listening, of loving. Honor that inner clarity. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand. But it notices. It waits. And when the time comes, it speaks with calm confidence. The truth is, our children aren't always going to tell us everything. Not because they're bad people. Not because they don't love us. But because they're human. And humans lie sometimes. Not out of cruelty, but out of fear, shame, or confusion. Sometimes they lie to avoid disappointing us. Sometimes to protect us. And sometimes, simply because they haven't yet figured out how to face their own truth. But that doesn't mean we stop asking, or that we stop hoping for honesty. What matters most is how we respond when we suspect a lie. Do we get angry? Shut down? Guilt trip them into telling us what we want to hear? Or do we pause, take a breath, and ask ourselves, how can I lead with steadiness, not suspicion? I once had a friend, let's call her Margaret, who told me something that stuck with me for years. She said, "When my kids lie to me, I don't take it as a betrayal. I take it as a sign that they're struggling. And I ask myself, how can I help them feel safe enough to tell me the truth next time?" That stayed with me because it's so different from how most of us were raised. We were taught to fear lies, to punish them harshly. But maybe what our kids need isn't more punishment. Maybe what they need is our presence, our patience, our quiet strength. You see, truth doesn't always arrive wrapped in perfect words. Sometimes it leaks out slowly, through a sigh, a hesitation, a story that doesn't quite line up. Our job isn't to pounce. It's to stay steady, to be like a mountain, unmoved by storms, yet deeply rooted. And when the truth finally comes, and it usually does, if you're patient enough to wait for it, then comes the real test. Can you stay calm when you hear what you didn't want to hear? Can you keep your love open, even when the truth hurts? That's where your strength shines. Because you've lived long enough to know that love doesn't mean perfection, that people make mistakes, even the ones we raised. And that forgiveness isn't weakness. It's one of the strongest things we can ever offer. Let's be honest here. The pain of being lied to by your own child, that doesn't go away easily. It stings. It shakes you. You start to question, what did I miss? Or why didn't they just tell me? But this is where we need to stop ourselves from spiraling. To remember, we can't control what others do. We can only control how we respond. And if our response is calm, wise, and full of grace, then we've already won. Maybe your child lied about something small. Maybe it was something bigger: money, relationships, past mistakes. You don't need to excuse it. But you can choose not to carry it like a burden. You can speak the truth and still be kind. You can call out the lie and still love the person behind it. I've learned, time and time again, that the most powerful response to dishonesty isn't shouting. It's stillness. It's eye contact. It's a quiet voice saying, "I'm here, but I expect the truth." That kind of clarity is disarming. It softens defenses. It invites real conversation. And sometimes the conversation won't happen right away. That's okay. Let the door stay open. Let your presence remind them that they're safe, even when they mess up. That's the kind of strength that matters. Not the strength to win arguments, but the strength to stay grounded when things feel uncertain. So if you're watching this and thinking, "I think my child has lied to me," know this: you're not alone. And you're not powerless. You have every right to want honesty. You have every right to expect integrity. But you also have the power to choose how you show up when honesty feels far away. You don't have to chase the truth. You don't have to demand it. You just have to be the kind of parent who stands steady, asks with care, listens with patience, and loves without conditions. That's what makes the difference. That's what turns painful moments into chances for healing. And that's what helps rebuild trust, even after it's been shaken. So the next time you feel that something's off, when the words don't match the body, or the laughter feels a little too forced, or the answers stay vague, don't panic. Don't lash out. Just breathe. Ask. Observe. Wait. Because when you stay grounded in truth, the people around you will eventually follow your lead. And maybe, just maybe, that quiet strength will help them tell you what they were too afraid to say before. And here's something I hope you hold on to. Even when the truth is difficult, even when it feels like the people we love aren't being honest with us, It doesn't mean the relationship is broken beyond repair. It simply means there's work to be done. And the truth, no matter how delayed, can still become a bridge back to connection. I want to talk about something that's rarely addressed, especially for those of us in the later chapters of life. What happens after the lie is revealed? Once the truth comes out, what then? Do you confront? Do you let it go? Do you rebuild or walk away? I'm not going to tell you to ignore the pain, and you shouldn't. Facing reality head-on means not pretending it doesn't hurt, but choosing to suffer wisely. And there's wisdom in knowing that holding on to bitterness only keeps the wound open longer. I once spoke with a woman named Linda, a retired teacher in her 70s. She told me that after her son confessed to years of financial mistakes and lying about it along the way, she felt shattered. Not because of the money, but because of the secrecy. "I thought we were closer than that," she said. "I thought I'd earned his honesty." And maybe she had. But that's the thing. Honesty isn't always a reflection of our worth. Sometimes it's a reflection of someone else's fears. Linda didn't lash out. She didn't cut him off. Instead, she told him, "I'm disappointed, but I'm still here." And with time, he began to open up more. They worked through the tension. They set boundaries. And now, their relationship isn't just repaired, it's deeper, because they walked through the fire instead of pretending it wasn't there. That's what real strength looks like. It doesn't shout. It doesn't punish. It simply stands tall and says, "I choose to love you through the mess, not in spite of it, but because it matters enough to clean it up." You may never get an apology. You may never get a full explanation, but you can still get peace. And that peace starts when you decide to stop carrying what doesn't belong to you. If your child lied, that's not your fault. If they're hiding something, that doesn't mean you failed. What matters is that you're here now, aware, wise, and ready to live the rest of your life with openness and calm. And speaking of life, don't let lies become the centerpiece of it. There's still so much joy to be found. So many sunsets, cups of tea, conversations with old friends. You were not put on this earth just to worry about who's being truthful. You're here to love, to grow, to enjoy what's left of this beautiful journey. If you've struggled with this, I hope you know this video wasn't made to judge your children. It wasn't made to sow suspicion. It was made to empower you, to remind you that your intuition is strong, your presence is valuable, and your peace of mind is worth protecting. So the next time you feel like something isn't being said, like your child is dancing around the truth, take a deep breath. Ground yourself. And remember, you don't need to fix everything in one conversation. You just need to stay steady. Ask the question. Leave the door open. And trust that the truth, however slowly, will make its way back to you. And when it does, meet it with the grace you've earned from a lifetime of loving. Because if there's one thing I believe with my whole heart, it's this. Honesty isn't just about words. It's about safety. And when you become a safe place, calm, wise, unshakable, you create the kind of space where even the hardest truths can finally be spoken. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If something I said resonated with you, if it made you think about your own family, your own journey, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. You never know who might feel less alone just by reading your story. If this video gave you something meaningful, please consider giving it a like. And if you'd like more videos on living with wisdom, navigating relationships, or simply finding peace in this season of life, hit that subscribe button. We're building a space here for people who believe it's never too late to live truthfully, gently, and fully. Until next time, stay grounded, stay kind, and remember, your calm is your strength. And your truth, even when it's tested, is your legacy.